evening and welcome back to World Talks. I'm Salia Stremska. The far-right Patriots for Europe party wants to be the new normal in Brussels and across the EU. That's the message its leaders have conveyed in Madrid during the two-day summit. To discuss this meeting and what it could translate to on the ground, I have Arkadiusz Modrzejewski, Associate Professor of Political Science, University of Gdańsk, joining me right now. Good evening, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Good evening.
So one of the slogans they are using is "Make Europe Great Again," which is, of course, inspired, let's say, by Donald Trump and his "Make America Great Again." But I wanted to ask you, what could this policy, this set of policies, what does it entail?
We have to realize that this slogan, "Make Europe Great Again," which you mentioned that it's a copy of American slogan, "Make America Great Again," but this European slogan doesn't mean that the Europe it's the most important value, most important issue, but national interest of parties which create this group, European Patriots. So that's why I think that they don't need great Europe. They need national states as a great partner of America. But of course, it's the trap of slogans, because we can consider them as a normal political European, but in fact they are populist, far right, sometimes as far populist, who wants to destroy the project of the European Union.
Right, and at the moment, Patriots for Europe are a number 3 grouping in the European Parliament. They have 86 MEPs. However, it seems that only Viktor Orban actually plays a significant role in EU structures and, of course, back home. So will we see more of these politicians coming to power? Which countries shall we be looking at? And will that tip the balance of power in Brussels?
I think that the next could be ANO. It's the party of Andrej Babiš, the former Czech prime minister, and probably they could win again. They can win again soon in the next election. Of course, the main power of this group is National Rally in France, and maybe in 2027, Marine Le Pen can be a president of the Republic of France. So we can. I think that the words of Orban's were really true when he said that we were fanatics or we are heretics. Yes, we were treated as heretics, but now we are mainstream. In fact, they maybe not are, but they are becoming a mainstream of European politics.
Right, and can we say that some actual mainstream and centrist parties are trying to embrace some of the ideas of these populist radical right groupings, especially when it comes to migration, for instance? Do we see that on the national scene, for instance?
Mm-hmm. I think that the generally migration issues are the common denominator of these far-right parties. But, you know, many other issues rather are quite opposite issues, and the view of these parties differently see these issues. For example, progressive ones. I mean, the rights of LGBTQ people or something like that. And we have some progressive, more progressive organizations like national rely in France, and more conservative like Fidesz in Hungary.
Right, and sort of, can we talk about divided Europe already, or is that in a process? But also, there's the saying divide and conquer. You probably know that rule. So will Europe be more vulnerable to outside influence if internally divided? And here perhaps the US could exploit that, or some other countries.
I think that generally the root of this success of these movements is outside of Europe. And if we consider the path of this success, I think that the main factor is, of course, and the current factor is the victory of Donald Trump in the United States. But I think that also these movements are very important for the Russian Federation, and I think that it could be also this power which stimulates these political groups.
So what can the mainstream parties, the more centrist parties, do to perhaps provide a counterbalance and to limit the influence of groupings such as Patriots for Europe?
It's very hard to answer. But if we observe the European political scenes, we can say that some of these parties, for example, Party for Freedom in the Netherlands, are involved in normal political life. In the case of Hungary, of course, Fidesz, the party of Fidesz, is the main political power in this country. And but what can we do, or what's mainstream party can do?
Mm-hmm. Right. Then we get.
I think that
we have the TISA party, for instance, in Hungary, right, trying to
yes.
Become more popular with Peter Magyar. So perhaps he will, right, and then Orban could eventually be replaced. I mean, it's a possible scenario. Could that happen in other countries? Could that be a reverse trend?
But if we observe the mainstream party or opposite party in Hungary, they generally now also mainstream politicians speak the same voice like far-right politicians. I mean, for example, narration dedicated to migration issues. If we observe and if we hear our central right politician or left, maybe less left politician, but rather central right or central politicians, we can imagine that they speak in voice of the same voice like far right politicians. So I think that the worst influence for which goes from these movements is the absorption of narration in mainstream parties. That's why Orban can say that we are mainstream now.
Right, but perhaps this sort of using some of these ideas will prevent the far-right groups from becoming even more popular, right? Because they're popular for a reason.
Yes,
people like what they say.
Agree.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think that it's a tool of protection of society, but I'm afraid that it also can be an infection of our minds, because open societies are becoming more closed societies and build the wall which is, of course, inside these societies.
Right, and so what are some of the factors that contribute to this sentiment across different countries? Of course, we know that migration is an issue, but perhaps there are other factors at play that make people become more radical and vote for these right-wing parties.
I think it's a cultural shock, because we are living in the very dynamic, changing world, and that's why many people, many groups, social groups, cannot find the stable place for their life. So that's why they are looking for the alternative, and the far right is this kind of alternative because they very often refer to national myths and ressentiments.
Right, and do you think it's a phase or it's a trend? I mean, is it temporary, or do you think that it will continue and expand? And what it then, if so, what it could be?
It's a trend, of course, but some circumstances gave special power for these movements. I mean, the most current is election in the United States where Donald Trump won, and the others is, for example, crisis in Ukraine, the Russian aggression in Ukraine, and the consequences for European economies, and COVID, pandemics of COVID as well. And it's the special turn points for development of this kind of movement and their success. But in fact, it's a trends which we can observe in the 21st century. So it's something normal that people who cannot find their place in the new world try to find support for their threats and their expectation, and one of this is the far right parties.
Right, and just to round up our discussion, do you think that this is a bad omen for the EU as a whole? Because we have these divisions. Do you think that this could ultimately one day lead to the breaking up of the European Union?
I don't expect this scenario. So I think that we have still strong traditional political powers which can prevent these movements. But of course, we are observing the tendency where these parties are stronger and stronger.
Arkadiusz Modrzejewski, Associate Professor of Political Science at University of Gdańsk. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.